Michael Flynn's life was destroyed by the probe over Russian meddling in the U.S. election campaign, Donald Trump has said. In tweets posted on Saturday, the U.S. president accused the Department of Justice of displaying double standards and said the system was rigged. He used the message to highlight an investigation into Hillary Clinton's private emails linked to the matter. The president wrote, "So General Flynn lies to the FBI and his life is destroyed, while crooked Hillary Clinton, on that now famous FBI holiday interrogation, with no swearing in and no recording, lies many times, and nothing happens to her. Rigged system, or just a double standard." He went on to say, "Many people in our country are asking what the Justice Department is going to do about the fact that totally crooked Hillary, after receiving a subpoena from the United States Congress, deleted and acid-washed 33,000 emails. No justice." Donald Trump celebrates victory as Senate backs tax overhaul. Mr. Flynn admitted to lying to the FBI about conversations that he had had with the former Russian ambassador to Washington Sergei Kislyak in a U.S. District Court hearing. Mr. Trump's outburst came after he previously tweeted in defense of Mr. Flynn, denying allegations of collusion and that there were no ties to his successful election and Russian meddling. In a tweet, the president said that he had to fire Mr. Flynn because he lied to the FBI. However, he also maintained that his actions during the presidential transition were lawful. He wrote, "I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI. He has pled guilty to those lies. It is a shame because his actions during the transition were lawful. There was nothing to hide." Donald Trump and ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Getty Images. The tweets led critics to question whether or not the president had changed his story over Mr. Flynn's firing. Mr. Flynn was forced to resign in February when concerns arose that he had misled the White House about conversations with Mr. Kislyak. Initially, Mr. Trump said that he had fired the general as he had lied to the Vice President Mike Pence, suggesting that he was aware of rumors that Mr. Flynn had lied to the FBI. Mr. Flynn this week pleaded guilty to making a false statement to the FBI for lying about the conversation that he had with the Russian official. The charges were brought by special counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Intelligence agencies in the U.S. say Vladimir Putin, Russia's leader, ran an effort to influence last year's presidential vote in Mr. Trump's favor. Mr. Flynn, 58, was a key player in the presidential election campaign and served as Mr. Trump's first national security advisor. He is the first former national security advisor to be charged with a felony since the mid-1980s. Mr. Trump responded to the plea on Saturday as he left the White House to head to New York for fundraising events expected to raise millions of dollars. Mr. Trump said what has been shown is no collusion, no collusion. There has been absolutely no collusion. Mr. Flynn is the fourth person involved in President Trump's campaign who was charged as part of the Mueller probe. His guilty plea was called by some the biggest development yet in the Trump-Russia scandal. It is thought the guilty plea could turn Flynn into a potentially key government cooperator after it was reported he has entered into a plea deal with Mr. Mueller and has agreed to cooperate in the inquiry. The plea deal might mean a shorter possible jail term for Mr. Flynn than the 5 years normally reserved for people who make false statements. According to White House lawyer Ty Cobb, nothing about Mr. Flynn's guilty plea implicates anyone other than Mr. Flynn. Mr. Flynn said during the hearing, "My guilty plea and agreement to cooperate with the special counsel's office reflect a decision I made in the best interests of my family and of our country." The Russia investigation has persistently followed Mr. Trump the first year of his presidency, angering the president and repeatedly distracting from his agenda. Early on in his administration, Mr. Trump had taken a particular interest in the status of the Flynn investigation. Former FBI Director James Comey, whose firing in May precipitated the appointment of Mueller as special counsel, has said Mr. Trump asked him in a private Oval Office meeting to consider ending the investigation into Mr. Flynn. Mr. Comey has said he found the encounter so shocking that he prepared an internal memo about it.